All right, everybody, let's jump into this first story. So we have this tweet from @remarks on Twitter. Just in, this is from yesterday night around 6:23 p.m. Ukraine's President Zelensky says U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters the same way we're sending our sons and daughters to war. And what I love about this is, yes, he said it. Yes, it's confirmed. But of course, they're panicking and they're look at this fact check from AP News. Zelensky didn't say, here's what AP says, Zelensky didn't say U.S. troops needed to fight in Ukraine. That's weird. That's actually what he did say. He did say that. Mm-hmm. So here's the framing they're going with. Claim. A video clip shows Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying that Americans will have to send their sons and daughters to the war in Ukraine. AP's assessment, missing context. Zelensky was explaining that if Russia attacked NATO member states, which are U.S. allies, the U.S. would likely send troops to protect those countries. He was not suggesting Americans would have to fight in Ukraine. Right, because it's going to be in Poland that the U.S. troops are in Poland, and they'll never go into Ukraine. There will be no advancement on that front. Once the U.S. pushes Russia out of Poland, and then Russia is occupying Ukraine, the U.S., of course, will just be like, we are done supporting this war. Ukraine is lost, of course, because that's what he certainly meant. They say the clip cut from a 2-hour live stream news conference on the somber one-year anniversary of Russia's somber, come on, guys, shows Zelensky speaking with the audio dubbed by a translator. Quote, the U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war. Our sons, what?
No, he said their sons and daughters. It's a very weird quote.
Right. And they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about. And they will be dying, God forbid, because it's a horrible thing. So what he's basically saying is, with the fact check in mind, when the U.S. is dragged into World War III over their country that is not a NATO ally, then we'll have to send our children to die in Europe. Oh, okay.
Why on earth would we send people to defend Europe if it's going to be a nuclear war? If it's the U.S. versus Russia, we can die in the U.S. just as easily as we can, die to nuclear fire in the U.S. as easily as we could die to nuclear fire in Europe. There's no reason for the U.S. to send people to Europe in a nuclear war.
I'm not even convinced necessarily it'll be nuclear. I think the moment we send troops to Europe, a whole bunch of oil refineries just explode all at once. There's gonna be cyber attacks. Power plants will shut down. The grid will go out. I would imagine that when it comes to cyber war, it's a Mexican standoff, and every country has their finger on the button to destroy another country's infrastructure. Yeah. The crazy thing is that when we started developing the internet, and then we hooked everything into it with a thought of security, we basically built towers of sticks, of bamboo, and we built our cities on top of bamboo. And it's like, it's holding us up. Like it's pretty great. You can make scaffolding out of it, but it's really easy to knock down because it's not that strong. And every country is built on top of it. So you don't need a nuke. They can just type in some, press enter, and whoosh.
I think
internet goes out.
I think, I think that you're probably right. And I think that only adds to my point that there is no longer the fight over European land the way that Zelensky's framing it, if you are talking about fifth generational warfare or whatever.
Fifth generational? Like psychological operations and stuff?
Well, I think that's the kind of stuff that would be used, especially if you're talking about, all-out war, if you're talking about nuclear war as well. I just don't see Americans needing to hold European land. I don't see Americans needing to go into Europe in a new type of war.
You know what got me really on board with voting for Trump this next time around? It's that video from the Whatever podcast. I don't know if y'all have seen those clips that are going viral, where he gets these low-wit narcissistic women to talk about their views on things. And I'm just watching the clip of that woman talk about feminism and why she's a feminist and her inability to articulate any kind of coherent thought. And then I just thought about it, and I was like, is this why we have the petrodollar? Is this why we have the Federal Reserve? Are we bombing kids in Yemen and Syria and other countries so that these vapid narcissistic women can have cheap products to smear on their faces? I'm ready to go back and work the farm. I'm ready to just get back to chopping wood and working really hard. These luxuries are bad for us. The U.S., I understand the fear, I guess, is probably that China would start crushing the world with their ridiculous, weird communism. And that literally is a bad thing. So, okay, fine. That's a tough question right there. But is this why the U.S. does these things? Like, is the reason we're fighting in Ukraine for the expansion of energy so that these vapid, narcissistic, entitled millennials and Gen Zers can be as dumb as a box of rocks but get free stuff? Because I'm like, vote for Trump, close the borders, build the factories, everybody get back to work. We're not doing this anymore. You're not getting a free ride.
The reason I'm not absolutely out of my mind enraged about the slavery in China or in wherever they have, I mean slavery, loosely, but where they're building these phones is because I'm sedated by the technology because I have access to cheap computers and phones. If I wasn't seeing value from the slavery, I'd be out of my mind about it. But instead, I'm like,
there's also
cost analysis.
There's also the fact that there's enough horrible things that happen every single day to drive someone insane if they knew about them all. Like, the world is a big place and there's a lot of people and there's a lot of suffering. So the fact that there's terrible things going on in China and stuff, if you don't have the capacity to know about it, and you shouldn't focus on it, and that's one of the reasons why I think that people are just so frequently depressed, is because the internet is delivering bad news right to their news feed all day long, and they doom scroll and stuff. I think that has a psychological effect on people.
I think what preceded his comment here was he was asked about polling in the United States, where the opposition to the war in Ukraine is increasing. And he was asked about Republican lawmakers, say people like MTG, et cetera, who want accountability at the very least for the, $120 billion that's going there. So they kind of teed him up for this. So this was part of his rant, basically saying that Americans shouldn't have a contrary opinion about the war, that elected officials should support it 100%. And if they don't, this is where this is going. What's interesting is you didn't hear anyone from the regime say, oh, no, this is not where that's headed. Because this is the natural escalation. We've seen this before. So we keep sending more artillery. We're sending jets. Who's teaching Ukrainian pilots how to use our weaponry? We're just send it with some instructions. I mean, this is where it's headed. So you haven't seen anyone from the Defense Department or anyone with the Biden White House say, no, that was totally out of line. That's not going to be the case.
What do you think?
This is probably where it's headed.
I know that we got a long way to go, but I'm curious your thoughts on what would happen the day Donald Trump takes office again with the Ukraine war still in action. Do you think he just pulls everything back like the snap of a finger?
Tim, I think that the more this goes on and the more it does escalate, it increases Trump's chances of winning. I mean, I think this issue alone could be a winning issue for him.
Yep.
That and the border, because it's not going to change. But this, how this is going directionally, this could be his biggest issue. So yes, he would take over. I think he learned his lessons about who he can and can't trust in the military industrial complex and the Pentagon, which is basically no one. And so I think if he becomes president, he fires Mark Milley and a whole lot of other people, and he automatically says, I'm not listening to any advice. We're done with this.
I can already see the political ads that are going to be running on this channel and every other YouTube channel. It's going to be a red screen, and it's going to show a train derailment, and there's going to be some like somber, deep voice of a 50-year-old man who sounds like he smoked a pack of cigarettes every day, since he was 12, saying something like, when a train derailment spread toxic chemicals, killing livestock and threatening the lives of millions, Joe Biden flew to Ukraine. And then it's going to be like spending $100 billion of your money on a country for what reason? Don't vote for Joe Biden.
Probably that day alone could be the...
That was it, for me at least.
I agree.
And even look, I like DeSantis, but even that day was big on like DeSantis went out of my mind on that one.
That's right.
Donald Trump going down there giving out Big Macs was just like, I was laughing. And it felt good. Like, it felt humanly good that Donald Trump was there with a smile buying Big Macs. It's like almost stupid, but it was human. It was something. And the funny thing is, like, let me just say it like this. Donald Trump went to East Palestine. Biden went to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Holy, are you serious?
Right.
Man, look, I mean, we don't even know if this guy's going to be able to run anyway. So maybe that's it. Maybe they're just like, who cares? Yeah, it's not going to be him, right?
But I think that was his, that's Trump's magic. And I mean, I'm a DeSantis fan too. I spent a lot of time in Florida. He just does not have that sort of personal connection that Trump has honed over years that comes by him naturally. And that was on display in Ohio, despite the contrast. Even if Biden hadn't made his trip to Ukraine, it on its own, it reminds people of what made Trump a special president.
It was a surprise
and what we
visit.
Lost. Right.
Yeah. Biden's like, surprise everybody. Hey, I went to Ukraine. And we're like, why?
Walk this line.
That's amazing.
To give him $500 million.
Yeah.
I remember he took
$500 million.
half a billion dollars with him to give
He had
of
to
my
DoorDash
money.
him some military support.
Wow.
Then Janet Yellen went. So.
But yeah, so I'm watching those videos of these vapid young people, and I'm just thinking about what is this system that we live in, and why do we do it?
It's not. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, it's just like we want to maintain the petrodollar. The United States manufactures nothing. So in order to maintain our GDP, we do produce culture and spread those movies and music around and make money off that. So there is an export there, but for the most part, we don't manufacture and export things. So the only reason our economy is propped up is because it's a mostly unipolar world, now becoming multipolar. But that means the United States controlled everything, decimated its competition, and put guns everywhere. And so it's like, use the US dollar to buy oil or else, which means when this country wants to buy oil, they need to buy the dollars from us, and we can charge whatever we want because we got the guns. And then for us, we can just print the dollars and buy the oil. How about that?
It's sort of like I've never had like a grandfather that's super rich. He's like the patriarch of the family and everyone hates him in the family, but he's the one with all the money.
Why does everyone hate him in this
He's such
story?
a dick. He's such an
He's just
alcoholic, abusive, racist, old from way back. And that's what the United States has become. This hated patriarch. It's the vestige of the military industrial. We used to be so great in the 80s and 70s, so great, because we were actually
we were pretty hated back then too.
Yeah, but we did prevent World War III before the invasion of
Ronald
Afghanistan.
Reagan they really hated Ronald
The
Reagan.
Iran-Contra thing was insane.
But I
mean,
mean,
Vietnam
the
was
world.
nasty.
I'm not a big fan of Reagan.
Hated him.
So
Europe absolutely hated him.
And John Rockefeller, he was probably always, I don't know if he's personally a jerk, but I think, you get these weird old patriarchs that are like, they control all the money in the family. And I feel like that's how people are just waiting for the United States to die because you can't kill the old man.
That's why I'm saying you vote for Trump. He builds a wall. He brings the factories back. He stops the foreign policy garbage. And that means we're not going to be the global police or anything like that. And that means all of these vapid young people have to roll up their sleeves and learn how to chop wood. And I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I think it's good. The gluttony of this country is a huge problem. Just there's tons of really dumb people who don't work. And the reason why we're seeing people getting degrees in like feminist dance theory is because you don't have to do anything. It's like you used to have to break rocks.
I'm going to be an influencer.
Yeah, that's right. When China asked, there was that study they asked Chinese kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like astronauts. And they asked American kids, YouTubers or whatever. It's like
influencer, right?
Influencers. They wanted to be personalities.
Right.
I think it's not the luxury that's destroying people or even the excessive luxury. It's the lack of relativism to the luxury. If you're born in luxury, you don't know it's a luxury. You got to get out of the system, go to South America and spend some time in the jungle where if you eat the fruit, you're going to get dysentery, and then come back to the United States and realize that running water is a godsend.
I don't think the fruit gives you dysentery.
You should check it out. Go to Baylin. It's where they poop in the river. They don't know.
That's the water, not the fruit.
It gets into the ground, into the soil, and then if you eat the fruit that comes out of it, there's parasites and stuff in it. And also, it's a different biome. Like your body can't handle certain chemicals the way they can here.
I got real sick eating acai in Brazil.
Yeah, I ate a fruit that
But you
tasted
never know
like
about- that's
creamy.
processing.
It was like sweet, creamy fruit I'd never eaten before, and I just started puking immediately after I ate it. It was
horrible
crazy,
anyway.
but it tasted so good.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.